Today I want to talk about two terrible things that are ideas which exist in our society and people don't realize it. First one is in the workplace. People will say that you should be willing to sacrifice more than what you need to sacrifice to meet your needs for the purpose of a job or a career or something like that. So, for example, they will say, okay, you're working for this job and you should be willing to work 85 hours a week if that's what's asked of you. Because if you're a hard-working, diligent person that has values, then why wouldn't you want to work hard? If you care about the business, why wouldn't you make the sacrifice necessary to do what the business needs of you? And what they don't want you to think is, am I getting value out of this myself? And am I getting what I need out of this? And if I am, then why would I give more? Like, they don't want you to think about what value you're gaining from the job. They want you to focus more on just doing what is asked of you, even if it's not really in your own best interest. Especially in salaried positions, you start to see this kind of a thing where the boss doesn't care if you don't see your family. They don't care if you spend so many hours at work that you risk your health. They don't care if you have to incur costs associated with serving the business that actually make it to where the salary you collect isn't even worth as much as it should be, because like maybe you are on the road all the time and you're burning gas and you're putting wear and tear on your vehicle and you're not actually reimbursed for those things. But you're taking one for the team, right? So those kinds of things. And those are just examples. There's many situations where jobs don't respect people and they ask people to make a sacrifice. And a job is supposed to be something you do and then it gives you a reward. And if it doesn't give you enough of a reward, then you would find another job that gives you a more appropriate level of return on your investment of time. Too often, there's this attitude that you should have a spiritual level of devotion to your company or to your career. And that's a total illusion. And they will say things like, we're all a family. Well, we're not all a family. It's a paycheck. It's a job that you do. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take pride in the work that you do, because you should. And if you don't value what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it. That's true. But to say that a company that was founded for the purpose of making money is somehow a spiritual purpose that is higher and beyond a financial imperative, that's a lie. The company is there to make money, and you're there to make money. It's not more than that. It doesn't need to be more than that. And if people try to imply that it's more than that because this or that particular company is like a family or something, and you should be willing to sacrifice your life for this, well, that's a toxic lie. And it's propagated a lot in the circles of corporate life. When people move their way up in a company, then after a while it starts to be a deal where you are expected to feel like it is a privilege for you to sacrifice so much of your life that you don't have the ability to think for yourself. You don't have the ability to be quiet and know yourself. You don't have the ability to have any kind of a life or identity outside of that job. And you are furthermore supposed to actually enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it and live and breathe that, then you're a bad employee. Well, that's ridiculous. Now, here's the other thing that's really bad, and that's the other end of the spectrum. And that is the attitude of people, usually lower level workers, people who don't have any achievement to speak of, who have the belief that they shouldn't have to sacrifice at all to achieve the goals that they want in life. And they think that if you have to sacrifice to get what you want, if you have to do something that's inconvenient to you so that you can gain something that you need, that's asking too much. And that's also just as ridiculous. It's the other end of the spectrum. It's just as ridiculous. If you want something in life, then you have to understand that you're going to have to pay the price that is asked, that is required, to gain the thing you seek. That's how life works. And if you expect that the world is going to just give you things for free, which you haven't earned, then you are a fool. And I think that a lot of people wind up in one of those two camps. There's people who are the workaholic types that have sold their soul to a company, and it's never going to be enough because they're waiting for the day when they're going to be able to somehow, I guess, find themselves, but they've sold themselves to something that will never be enough, something that will never allow them to be true to themselves. Essentially, sold themselves into slavery so that they can get a salary. And then you got other people who don't want to make any sacrifice at all because they feel like anything that goes outside of the realm of easy is asking too much. You have to be willing to do what is needed. And sometimes what is needed is very little. Sometimes if you are smart and you are lucky, you wind up in a situation where you don't have to put very much effort in to get what you need and what you seek in return. You don't have to work 80 hours a week because you can live a simple life and you can have a small, simple, low cost of living, and you can have a good life and know you don't need to be sucked into that corporate rat race of giving up your sense of identity for the purpose of a never-ending treadmill. And maybe you don't need to make a lot of sacrifices because you have planned wisely and you consume little. And if that's you, then you shouldn't feel a need to make more sacrifices than you need to meet your needs, just because people are going to be out there saying, well, why don't you do this? Because everyone's doing this. And yet, you also don't get return if you don't work. You don't have the opportunity to have blessings in your life if you refuse to plant seeds, if you refuse to do the things necessary to set yourself up for success because you think that everything has to be easy, and if it's not easy, somebody else needs to make it easy for you. There is a time and a place for long hours of hard work and risks and journeys that are longer than you ever expected that they should be. But there's also a time for reaping the rewards, for getting the harvest, for saying enough is enough. And I love the quote by Epicurus, who says that enough will never be enough for the man to whom enough is too little. And if you aren't satisfied, if you can't get to the point where you're satisfied with your life, where you're always looking for that breakthrough that's going to allow you to get to that threshold, that magic point where it's going to be enough, and you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there, because if you can't get to the point now where you have a blessed life and you see that your life is blessed and it's good enough, you're probably never going to be able to achieve that. Because no matter what blessings come into your life, you're always going to be on the treadmill just a little bit longer, waiting for a more convenient day. And there's a lot of people who spent their whole life, they've been building things, and they've been making sure that they have a 3-car garage, and making sure that they have a new car, and making sure that they look good to the neighbors. And it's going to be a sad story for them when they get to the end of life and they realize that they were stuck in the corporate rat race for so long, and they never actually had a chance to look up at the sky and see the stars because they were so busy being defined by other people's problems. And then there's also people who don't understand that you have to sacrifice if you want a rewarding life. You have to be willing to do what is necessary. And those people are going to never know what it's like to be able to say, look at this which I have done. This is the fruit of my labor, because they thought that work was some sort of a curse. It's about finding this balance. It's about understanding you have to take pride in your life. You have to love what you're doing with your life right now. But you also have to understand that there is such a thing as too much, and there's such a thing as too little. You can't sell yourself to others to be defined your whole life by somebody else's agendas without paying the price of your soul, which is too much to pay. But you also have to be willing to serve and understand that that is part of life too. And that's perhaps the irony of life. You have to do both. And too much of any good thing is toxic and painful and harmful. If all you know how to do is keep on working and keep on chasing more, you'll never have a good life. And if you're unwilling to work and you have no ambition at all, well, that's going to be just as bad. So be diligent, be vigilant, be passionate, be committed. But also, don't keep on chasing things after you get to the point where you've gotten enough. Thank you very much.